All right, so you know how sometimes you're looking at a map and you see some tiny town, the kind of place you'd probably just scroll right past. Well, today, we're going to do exactly the opposite.
We're zooming in, aren't we?
Big time. We're talking about Moreh, right on the border of India and Myanmar.
Sounds peaceful, right?
You'd think so. But get this. Our sources are describing it as a crucial gateway to Southeast Asia and a major point of controversy in India's northeast.
It's interesting, isn't it, how a place that seems so out of the way can actually be right at the center of a whole bunch of activity. A lot of it, not exactly legal.
Yeah, not legal at all, actually.
It shows you how borders don't just separate things, they can connect them to, and not always in good ways.
Exactly. So what exactly are we talking about here? What's allegedly flowing through Moreh?
Well, we're looking at a whole lot of mystery, a whole lot of illegal trade, and, well, let's just say a lot of drugs.
Heroin and meth, specifically, supposedly flooding into India through this one spot.
Right, and then you've got these rumors of underground arms deals, and the word is this whole network is so powerful that the authorities, well, they tend to look the other way.
They tread carefully, let's just
No.
put it that way. So our mission with this deep dive is to get to the bottom of this, to expose the dark secrets of Moreh.
Sounds a little bit like a spy thriller.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We want to figure out what's really going on, who's pulling the strings of this illegal trade, and why a place like Moreh, seemingly insignificant, plays such a huge role in the power struggles between Nagaland, Manipur, and even on an international level.
When you think about it, borders create these zones where different systems clash.
Yeah, different laws, different economies.
Exactly, and that can create opportunities for people who want to exploit those differences. Border towns like Moreh, they often become hubs for all sorts of shady activities that can thrive in the gaps between jurisdictions.
Our sources make it really clear that despite Moreh's size, we're talking about some really high stakes here. This isn't just small-time stuff.
No.
We're talking about huge smuggling operations, arms deals that could be fueling major regional conflicts, the absolutely horrific issue of human trafficking, and unsettlingly, even whispers of international espionage.
It's almost like a movie, right? All playing out in this one little town.
Totally. And Moreh's location, being this link between India and Southeast Asia, that isn't just about legitimate trade, it makes it a prime route for anything and everything to move between these regions, legal or not.
The connectivity that makes a place like Moreh thrive economically can also be its downfall when it comes to illicit activities.
Right. And speaking of illicit goods, we got to talk about the Golden Triangle. I mean, everyone's heard of it, right?
Infamous, right?
That region spanning Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand, known for, well, drug production on a massive scale. And guess what? Moreh acts as a major smuggling corridor, a pipeline, essentially funneling heroin, meth, opium straight into India.
It's almost a direct route from this huge drug production center right into India.
But it's not just about location. Our sources point to this incredibly complex mix of ethnic and militant groups, all operating in and around Moreh. Naga, Meitei, Kuki, underground organizations, all reportedly fighting for control.
Yeah, vying for power.
So the question is, who really runs Moreh?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Is it one of these groups? Is there some shadowy figure, some organization behind the scenes we don't even know about?
I doubt it's one single entity calling all the shots.
Right.
It's probably more of a fractured landscape, right? With different groups, individuals, all wielding some degree of influence, their interests overlapping, clashing, making for a very unstable situation.
Okay, so let's dive into the drug trade specifically, because our sources go so far as to call Moreh a straight-up drug capital, with heroin and meth just flooding into India from this one town.
A hub.
Yeah, a hub. And the primary source seems to be these Myanmar drug lords operating out of the Golden Triangle. They're painted as the big players, the ones pushing all these narcotics into India's northeast.
Which, I mean, it lines up with what we know about the Golden Triangle's global role in the drug trade, right?
It does.
I mean, they're producing so much that they need these vast networks to distribute it, and border regions like Moreh, they're prime targets, unfortunate as that is.
Unfortunately. And it's not just these international cartels, right?
No.
Our source points to the involvement of local underground groups, too. Naga, Kuki, Meitei factions.
Right.
And here's the troubling part. There are reports they're actually taxing or even controlling the drug trade to fund their own activities, their own insurgencies.
Oh, yeah.
So the money from these drugs isn't just going to criminals, It's potentially funding violence and instability.
That's a classic case of what we see in a lot of conflict zones around the world.
It is.
These illegal economies become intertwined with armed groups, giving them a financial lifeline to keep operating, prolonging conflict. It's a vicious cycle.
Absolutely. And then you've got the whole murky issue of corruption in the system.
Well,
Our source alleges that high-ranking officials, law enforcement, they're basically turning a blind eye to all of this, allegedly motivated by bribes. It suggests a system where corruption enables this illegal trade to just thrive.
corruption, no matter where it is, eats away at the system.
It
does. It undermines the rule of law, creating this environment where crime can flourish without any real fear of consequence.
And then our source asks this really stark question. Is Moreh becoming India's narco state?
Whoa.
It's a powerful image, and based on what we're seeing, it's a question that deserves serious consideration.
It is a powerful statement, right?
Yeah.
It makes you think about how deeply the drug trade can impact a whole region, its government, its people, even its identity. It's a scary thought, honestly.
It is. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about another major issue, arms smuggling.
Okay.
Our sources point to the significant flow of weapons fueling those ongoing insurgencies in Nagaland and Manipur.
Yeah.
And a lot of these weapons are allegedly passing through Moreh.
Makes sense geographically.
Right. It's being described as an underground arms pipeline, with smuggled weapons coming from Myanmar, China, and even Russia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty surprising. And the sheer volume of weaponry is alarming.
I bet.
The source mentions reports that rebel groups are buying AK-47s, M16s, RPGs in bulk, allegedly with funding from foreign agencies.
Foreign agencies.
Yeah. So not only are we talking about a lot of weapons, but also potential international involvement in these conflicts, which adds a whole other layer of complexity to the situation.
It really does. If true, it suggests that there are outside forces that benefit from keeping Northeast India unstable.
Exactly. And our source names specific groups. NSCN, the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, a major player in that region's insurgency. The PLA, the People's Liberation Army of Manipur, and ULFA, the United Liberation Front of Assam. All groups that have been involved in major conflicts for decades.
Wow. It's like a who's who of insurgent groups in Northeast India.
It is. And then there's this really controversial theory that comes up. The idea of Chinese intelligence deliberately arming these groups to destabilize the region.
That's a big accusation.
Huge. And it understandably raises some serious geopolitical concerns.
Yeah, of course. I mean, accusations like that aren't uncommon in international relations, but proving it definitively is tough. Requires solid intelligence and evidence. If true, though, the consequences could be huge for the whole region.
Absolutely. And to make things even more complicated, there are even claims, though highly speculative, about the Indian government's role in all of this. Some sources suggest that New Delhi might be allowing certain factions to operate within limits as a form of political leverage.
Oh, wow. So basically they're playing both sides.
That's the suggestion, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really sensitive and potentially inflammatory claim.
It is, but it also highlights how messy things can get in areas with long-running conflicts. The idea of a government tolerating illegal activities for their own gain, it's a recurring theme, even if it's rarely acknowledged or proven.
This whole picture of arms smuggling leads to another big question from our source. Is Moreh just a small town, or is it actually the hidden heart of India's underground war?
It's a good
It
question.
makes you rethink the importance of this place.
It does. It's not just a dot on a map. It's potentially the central point in a much bigger, more dangerous network fueled by drugs and weapons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, we need to address an issue that sometimes gets overshadowed by the scale of the drug and arms trades, but is just as horrific: human trafficking.
Oh, yeah.
Our source makes it very clear this is a serious problem in Moreh, saying that women and children from Myanmar and Northeast India are being smuggled across the border through this very town.
That's awful.
It is. And it's not just smuggling. It's forced labor, prostitution, even organ trafficking. Our source emphasizes that these underground networks operate with impunity, basically using Moreh as a hub for their horrific activities.
Impunity, that's a scary word. It means they're acting without any fear of consequences. It's a complete breakdown of law enforcement, a failure to protect vulnerable people.
Exactly. And our source asks this really tough question. Why is no one talking about this? Because those in power profit from it.
It's a cynical view, but
What a plausible one.
it's a sad reality. But sometimes those in power benefit from keeping things quiet, especially when money is involved.
It's a really tough reality to face. So When we look at the big picture, the drug cartels, the armed groups, the alleged corruption, the human trafficking, it comes back to that initial question, who really has power in Moreh?
It's the core of the problem, isn't it?
It is. Our source revisits this, mentioning the claims of Naga groups, specifically the NSC and IM and others, who claim they have territorial control. But they're constantly challenged by rival factions.
So it's a constant power struggle.
It seems so. And then you've got the conflicts between kooky and mighty groups vying for influence, which have escalated into violent clashes. It's just adding another layer of instability and danger to an already volatile situation.
Absolutely. Having multiple armed groups fighting for the same territory creates chaos. It makes it almost impossible to establish any kind of law and order. And of course, in this kind of environment, crime thrives.
Exactly. And then there's the role of the Indian security forces, the ones who are supposed to maintain order.
Yeah, the ones who are supposed to be in control.
Right. But our source really questions their effectiveness. They allege that the authorities are aware of all these crimes, but question their ability or maybe even their willingness to actually do anything about it.
That's a big problem.
It is. It erodes public trust when the people who are supposed to be protecting you seem unable or unwilling to act.
For sure. And it emboldens the criminals, right? They know they can operate freely.
Exactly. And to make things even more complicated, our source even brings up the possibility of international intelligence agencies secretly influencing things in Moreh.
Oh, wow. That's a whole other can of worms.
It is. If true, it would mean that Moreh's importance goes way beyond just a local or regional level, potentially tying it to global power plays.
That's a chilling thought. It would mean that these larger forces are manipulating the situation for their own gain.
And then our source ends by asking, is Moreh an ungoverned black hole? Or is someone in Delhi pulling the strings? It really makes you question the level of control or lack thereof, and who might actually be benefiting from this whole mess.
It's a stark choice, isn't it? Either it's complete chaos with everyone fighting for power, or there's someone higher up who's allowing this to happen, maybe even manipulating it for their own reasons.
Yeah, scary either way. So wrapping things up, our source paints this really bleak picture, saying Moreh is essentially a time bomb waiting to explode. It's a safe haven for criminals, smugglers, and insurgents. And all the money generated from this illegal trade, it's fueling violence, corruption, and basically destroying society.
Yeah, that's a grim assessment.
It is. But what's maybe the most concerning takeaway, the statement that no one seems to want to stop it.
That's a powerful statement. And a disturbing one.
It is. So we want to leave you with these same questions that our source raised. Should Moreh be placed under direct central government control? And who do you think benefits from the chaos in Moreh?
Those are big questions, really important ones.
They are. There might not be easy answers, but we need to understand the situation, how serious it is, and how complicated it is.
Absolutely. We need to understand what's at stake and who's pulling the strings.
And that's what the deep dive is all about, right? Giving you the information, the context you need to understand these difficult issues and to think critically about what's happening in the world.
Exactly. It's about empowering people to form their own opinions, to make informed decisions, and to hopefully make a difference.
And hopefully to push for change where it's needed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Moreh. We encourage you to keep learning, keep asking questions, and to never stop seeking the truth.
Absolutely. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. That's the key.
Couldn't have said it better myself.